Welcome to the Point News interviews. And today our guest is Steven Sahyouni, a journalist from Syria. So today's topic is really relevant. The events in Syria unfolded with astonishing speed. What do you believe triggered the coup?
What made this so fast is the Assad regime was so corrupted, and he was only concentrated on gathering money, him and his family. When you have your soldiers on $10 a month, don't expect them being loyal to you. When you have your employees on living on $20 a month and they need $600 to live, and don't expect them being loyal to you. And that was only he was caring about. He was caring about gathering money. They were taking businessmen to custody just to blackmail them for money. Going into shops, the customs, going into shops, taking merchandise to blackmail the shop's owner. I'm saying this from not out of propaganda or because I'm Syria and the new people are in charge, so I'm afraid. No, this happened to my own family, to my own father. They took my father to a security branch to terrorize him just to steal a piece of property. Either they take the property who is in downtown Latakia, or he has to pay thousands of dollars. So the situation was, the corruption was increasing so much that he lost the loyalty from his army, from the military, not his army, Syria's army, from the military, from his own sect, from his own people, from his own supporters. That's why everyone fight for him. And no one saw, even his own allies saw how corrupted he was, and they didn't interfere, because it was like the Arabs told him, sit on the table and do the 2254, the UN Security Council resolution. Sit with President Erdogan, with your neighbors. He refused. President Putin asked him. Mohammed bin Salman asked him to do it. Mohammed bin Zayed asked him to do it. He kept being stubborn, refused, and just concentrating on gathering money from the Syrian people and the Syrian businessmen.
Is there any other underlying reasons for it?
A lot of people are saying that, it's the sanctions. Sanctions only harm about 20-30%. But the Syrian people's suffering could have been decreased if he fought corruption. Like already, I'm saying from the everyday life of the Syrian people. So the reasons, this is all the reason it all got together. It's been for years. The sanctions only harm partly. But if he fought corruption and he used the money of, besides getting businessmen and taking their money and spending it on a Bugatti that they found in his palace, and Lamborghini and Ferrari, 400, 500 cars, if he spent that money on factories, if he spent that money on rebuilding Syria that's completely destroyed, he could have made money, and he could have made money to his pocket, but at the same time, the unemployment could have been decreased. The people had jobs, and he could have went around sanctions. There's a lot of countries under sanctions. Iran's been under sanctions since 1970. Look at them; they look like Europe. Yeah, and sanctions worse than Syria. Russia's under sanctions. Venezuela's under sanctions. Cuba's under sanctions. But no, his family only cared about cash, money. That's the only thing they cared about. And that's a big role in what happens. All goes back to corruption. And I repeat, I'm not saying this just because the new people are in charge. I don't care. I will never be with the Islamists. I will never be with the Muslim Brotherhood. And I will never support Muslim Brotherhood and radical Islam. But at the same time, I cannot support a family, a dictator that was unloyal to his allies. And he disrespected his allies, who they gave blood, and they gave money, and they gave time, and they gave weapons and trying to help him and help his people, but he was unloyal to them, and he only was greedy, him and his family and his wife, just for money. It all goes back greedy of money.
What's the future of the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party?
The Ba'ath Party, actually, if you go down yesterday, the Ba'ath Party never existed anyway. From the father's days and from the son's days, they eliminated it. They finished it. The Ba'ath Party was just, and especially on his days, and since the year 2000 till 2024, the day he left, they kept making the Ba'ath Party weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. No one has the ideology of the Ba'ath Party. No one believes of the Ba'ath Party ideology. The whole country was run about one family, Assad, or their relatives, or their partners. The Ba'ath Party in the father's days and Hafiz Assad's days, yeah, you would see people with that ideology who believed in the party, they cared about the party. But since this guy he took over in 2000, he kept making it weaker and weaker and weaker until it had no decision. It had no one even cared. They never even attended meetings anymore. And if you attend the meeting, they will talk nonsense. And it's all older people, like from 60 and above. No young blood. No one caring about that Ba'ath Party. So the Ba'ath Party is it's an old, and it was already dead. And all of the people who was in charge of that Ba'ath Party, who worked from it from their hearts, either they're in prison or died or they were put on the side. So the Ba'ath Party doesn't exist from years. Years they had no role. It was just like for the media. Oh, there's a Ba'ath Party. They're ruling the country. They're the majority in the parliament. Let's do an election, so-called election. We use the Ba'ath Party name. That's all. But if you want the truth on the ideology, I'm talking because I'm a person who belongs to the ideology of the Syrian Social Nationalist Party. That's the oldest secular party in the Middle East. And I believe and I like always the ideology of secularism and countries that go by secular, not by religion. Because we have interact with the Ba'ath Party before all of this happened, as SSMP they call them. They don't exist anymore. They just have offices, flags, but no one comes in. There's no blood in it. There's no hard work. That's the problem with the Ba'ath Party today. It's his fault. They eliminated it. He finished it, him and his family.
In your opinion, which party or movement is likely to take its place?
The problem today, there's a lot of individuals. That's the problem. It all goes back to dictatorship. He didn't allow any parties to be in charge. Even the SSMP, the party that I used to belong to, and they fought on the ground, and they were in the militias, and they fought terrorism, and they fought in several wars, and they were with the Syrian army. He used to put pressure on them. And not him, his security branches. And he used to always, the Communist Party in prison. He came into power until the year 2004. The Communist Party has been put in prison. And their members, the Syrian Syrian Social Nationalist Party, the same thing, they've been put in prison until the year 2015 when he needed the Syrian Social Nationalist Party. And he made them, he asked them to interfere to fight the war. But he didn't support parties. That's the difference between, if we want to take an example between Syria and Egypt. Egypt is a different case. Egypt, Mubarak, he supported, and they had a parliament, and they had parties, and they used to have different political parties, and they used to negotiate and talk in the parliament. But our parliament was just about Ba'ath Party, one party, no other party, forbidden for any other party. Even if you wanted, on the smallest example, if you wanted to have a luxury coffee shop where you sit, you have a small play, you want to sit and read books, you want to have music, you needed over 400 approvals and signatures from the security branches to open a culture coffee shop. But on the other hand, if you wanted to open, let's say, something religious, he gives you a signature immediately. You don't need anything. And that's why we have so much radical terrorism and this, these radical Islam. There are a big number of them. It's because of his fault in his wrong policies in the last 25 years.
What global impact do you foresee as a result of this coup?
In my opinion, in the media it came out and they started talking and accusing the allies of President Assad, the former president. But it's not the allies' fault. It's not Iran's fault, and it's not Russia's fault completely. In the end, these countries, they have their own interests. They have their own national security. They tried to help. They gave, as I told you, they gave money. They gave support. They gave military. They sent airplanes. There was a lot of martyrs from the Russian army and Iranians on the ground. But if the guy they were helping and supporting wasn't working with them, wasn't helping them, they tried to make Syria stable. They tried to make him sit on the table and make a transition government and do the 2254. But it's not them. But it came to a point that this guy is not helping us. This guy is not working with us. So we're not going to help him. We have more important files to deal with. We can sit on the table with the Turkish and we can deal the problem. We have to sit with the Ukrainians. We have to sit with the Gulf if it's Iran. We have other more important files than this guy. He is refusing to help himself and helping his country when he was isolated. He was isolated. The Iranians tried to help. The Russians tried to help. The Emiratis and the Saudis tried to help a lot, but he kept being stubborn. He didn't want a solution. He was living in a denial. That's the problem. It's not the allies of Syria's fault. It's not Russia's fault. Russia did what they can and more what they can. They did their best. They were friends with Syria. They tried their best. They helped in aid. They helped in military. They helped in money. They helped in everything. But the guy in charge here was only caring about, as I told you, we all go back to greedy for money.
Yeah, I guess that's the issues of ego.
Yes, ego. Narcissist.
Could this mark the start of another war in the Middle East?
Today, we can see the war in Gaza is almost over, and the ceasefire is on. They're working on the ceasefire, so it should be as the reports coming out in the next few days, next few weeks. Lebanon also, there is a peace deal, and they elected a president. Thank God. Syria, the situation is still not stable, and it's not over yet in Syria. People think that it's over. No, it's still not over, and there's still the problem. There's too many hands, as they say. There's too many parties working. You have the Turkish, you have the Americans, you have the Israelis, you have the Qataris, you have the Saudis, the Emiratis. So the situation is still not over, and I think the situation in Syria won't be over until Trump comes in and he meets with the Arabs and the Turkish. And in my opinion, he's going to go with the Arabs, not with the Turkish. He will go with the Saudis, Emiratis, more than the Turkish. They are stronger financially, economically, and that's what Trump cares about. Where the problem in the Middle East, if Trump thinks about doing a war on Iran, that we're talking about Iran. We're not talking about a weak country. We're not talking about a poor country. We're talking about smart people. We are talking about a country that has sophisticated weapons, and they can hurt the United States. And if they hurt the United States, they're hurting the whole economy of the world. And that's, I'm talking about the American interest in the Middle East. We're talking about the Gulf, the business routes by the Gulf and the seas, where the ships go through from Southeast Asia to the Middle East and the Suez Canal. We are talking about a massive war. And in my opinion, Iran today is not alone. Today, Iran has strong ties. Today, Iran has allies who are very strong. And here I'm talking about Russia and China. Today, Russia, China, and President Putin, he is much smarter than what the American thinks. He knows that, yeah, now Trump is he might sit on the table and he might pressure Ukraine to finish the war, but he will finish Iran and make Iran weak. Then the only enemy the United States have is China and Russia. Then the United States will have surrounded Russia from all the borders of Russia. And I think President Putin is and he is smarter than that, and he won't go for that, and he will not leave Iran alone. Not China and not Russia will leave Iran by itself. So I think if President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu supports a war against Iran, I think we'll be seeing a World War III. Because we're talking Iran, they're saying, oh, it's weak. But today, when you have a person in the corner, for example, and you're beating him, he's going to use everything that he has. He might have nuclear. He might even hit nuclear plants in the region to defend himself. If he's being killed in the corner, he's going to defend himself. So we are talking about a mass destruction, mass economical losses, life losses, and I think I don't see Trump being that ignorant and Trump being that actually stupid, and especially he wants to rebuild America's economy. And today we're seeing America's economy is going really bad, especially after what happened, the American support for Ukraine, Corona, and now we have another virus going around the world. So the world economy is so weak, and the situation in the world today. It looks like what's happened in the 1920s and the economical situation that happened in the 1920s. And we are exactly the same what's happening today. And that's the problem. So I don't think Trump will cause a war and do a war against Iran. I think when President Putin and President Trump sit on the table, they will solve it, and they will solve the solution. I see that President Putin, when he sits at the table with President Trump and negotiate, I think he will moderate a negotiation between the Iranians and the Americans, because President Putin has good relationship with both Iran and the United States and President Trump. So I think he will moderate a deal between them. The Iranians, they will give some, as they say, files or some interest for America, and the Americans will give the Iranians some interest, like, for example, Lebanon, Hezbollah, the nuclear agreement, some money that's been frozen. And on both sides, that's what I see. I see Putin in this term of Trump, in the next 4 years, President Putin is going to have a big role in making peace in the region. And I'm seeing that because he has both good relationship with the Arabs, with the Middle East, with Asia, Southeast Asia, and with Trump, because we all know that Trump and Putin both think the same way. And in the first Trump term, there was a lot of files they solved together. And I'm very optimistic of these 4 years that both of them, they can decrease the tension that the Biden administration and the Democrat Party caused in this world. If the Democrat won again in the presidential election, if Biden or Kamala Harris won, we could have been going towards World War III easily. But now with Trump winning, and there's good relationship with President Putin and the Chinese, none of these three names want a war. They all want economy and rebuilding their own economy, because their economy is strong. That's mean the world economy safer.
Thank you. But will the shift in power in Syria strain relations between Turkey and United States?
As I told you, President Trump, when he's going to sit in the region and and he does his tour as he always does, any president does. I see today Trump wanting the money, caring about the money. He's going to listen to the Saudis and to the Emiratis. Today, the Saudis, they are, as we say in the Middle East, and the Arabs, the godfather of the Arab world is Saudi. If Saudi is happy from you, your country is safe and growing economically. If Saudi is angry from you, you will die from hunger. And that's what happened in Syria. In 2009, President Assad backstabbed Saudi Arabia in Lebanon, and this war started since then, the war against Syria. And Saudi was pumping the money. Now, Saudi wants to rebuild Syria. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is doing good steps towards decreasing the tension in the Middle East. Is putting pressure on Israel, on America over Palestine. He had a big role in electing a president in Lebanon. He had a massive role in electing. For 2 years, Lebanon couldn't vote for a president. Saudi had a big role. So I see, and now he wants to concentrate on solving Syria because he wants a stable Middle East, because he has his vision 2030, and he doesn't want anything to interrupt that vision, because that vision 2030 and his AI city, NEOM, that he is building, it's money maker for Saudi Arabia, and that's the future of the world. So he wants stability in the Middle East, and that's why I am betting, as they say, on on Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman when he sits on the table with President Trump, saying we want a secular, civil, democratic Syria that is close to the Arabs, close to no one else, and especially not to Turkey. Turkey today, any small economical problem, their economy crashes. Every few years it happens. They go to the Gulf, they beg money, they put billions of dollars in the bank, and they save them. So Trump today is an economical man. He's a businessman. He's a smart man. He will go with the strong one. And the strong one today is Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Is there a risk of a new wave of millions of refugees heading to the European Union?
Actually, yes. Unfortunately, yes. Because today, and that's what's happening in Syria and the situation, until now, as I said, the prices went down. People are on the prices are okay, are happy, they have no problem. But the problem there is no safety. There is no safety in the country. People are afraid about the minorities. No one harmed the minorities. Some groups, individual groups here or there, but harm the minorities, yes. But as the HTS or the people in charge officially, they did not harm the minorities. I live in Latakia. There's Alawites, there's Christians, there's Muridi, there's all different kinds. No one. We celebrated Christmas. We celebrated New Year's. The shops still have alcohol. Nothing happened. But there's that fear inside of us because no one trusts the Muslim Brotherhood. There's that fear. So I think there is fear and there is a way. And that's why I'm saying the situation should be solved tomorrow, Sunday. I think tomorrow, Sunday, January 11th. And there is a meeting in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia over Syria. And that has a big role on the future of Syria. It all depends. If Saudi can implement and force the people in charge today to be secular and to put safety, because today there's no police. There's hardly any police. There's no military. There's some people, they belong to the people in charge in Damascus. They're running the country. This morning, we woke up, there was a murder in front of our house, right in front of my house in my neighborhood. 10 days ago, my neighbor in the building next to me was killed and thrown in a village far away. So there's these murders, these thieves running around, and they all have beards and they all have weapons. So you don't know who do they belong to. So that's the fear of the Syrian people. I feel like some people might come from Europe and new people might go. Other people might go.
So there's no control over those people and they are doing what they wish. That's how I see it.
Yes, that is so true.
I'm so sorry that you don't feel safe in your own country. That's really sad. I hope that situation is gonna turn the other way.
I hope so. The problem is, I just want to, if I can just add something small, is I've written several articles since December 8th and I've been attacked over them because I exposed the corruption of the Assad regime. First of all, we couldn't talk about his corruption, him and his family, because they will put us in prison. I lost my own cousin, who was a teenager, 16 years old, because of his torture. He wrote a few posts on Facebook. He never left his house. He never left his neighborhood. He just wrote a few things on Facebook, and he was taken to the ugly prison of Sidnaya, and he died there. And my aunt died out of depression. My father was terrorized several times in the last 15 years because of his family trying to rip him off, because my father is a real estate developer. We couldn't talk before. Now he left. Now we can't talk. I will never support imperialism. I will always support the Middle East and the suffering of the people in the Middle East, like Gaza, like Lebanon. I will always support the East. I will never support the West. Like, I will always be with Russia, China, and those countries. But I cannot support a family that made a country that's 10,000 years old as their own farm. I just want to make, because I'm getting attacked a lot. A lot of people unfriend me. A lot of people blocked me. I just wanted to make sure. I live in Syria. We suffered from that family. I'm not saying these people are angels who are in charge. They're the same and they're the worst. But 54 years of one family stealing Syria, it's enough with us. So I just wanted to make that clear, because I don't know if you've been reading my work. You could have seen that what happened to this guy. He used to write one thing, now he writes, I never pledged and said good things about Assad or his family. I never said anything good, not in my articles and not in any of my interviews. I just wanted to make this clear. I suffered. My family suffered from his family. Thousands and millions of Syrians suffered. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear. I did not shift. I just thought I'm talking the truth. That's all.
That's really horrible. It's hard to believe that the things are happening, those situations. It's really horrible, and I'm sorry that happened to your relatives. And I have a final question: is your view about the future? What do you predict for Syria in the coming years?
I predict a beautiful Syria. Why? Because the Syrian people are smart. The Syrian people haven't gone to the civil war and to the bloodbath. There was a lot of international and regional powers. They were betting on a civil war. Even after December 8th, when he ran away, the coward, he ran away. Even his own people and his own officers, they were betting on a civil war, especially where I live. Sorry, in the coast, because as I told you, the coast is a mixture. But the Syrian people are wise. The Alawites, the Sunnis, the Christians, that bet did not go through. The Syrian people are smart, and there are a lot of intellectual people, professors, doctors, actors, singers, even scientists all over the world, and they're Syrian, and they're hungry to come back to give to their country. So I feel that we have a beautiful future, a bright future, and a Syria that we are going to build for our children, not like the Syria that we used to have. So I am very optimistic. We're just going through now some chaos because we had a regime for 54 years. Now we're empty. It just takes time to having an election, having a new constitution, with the help of the region, of course. But in the end, the Syrian people are very smart, and they will never go to this level of sectarian war. When we say a sectarian war and civil war, and now it's 1 million dead. Syria is over 30 million. But if a real sectarian war happened, there could have been the losses in 7 and 8 and 9 million deaths. What happened till now, it's not a civil war. And so what happened till now in Syria, it's not a sectarian war. Because as I told you, if there was a real sectarian war, I'm a Syrian and I live in Latakia. There could have been several million dead. There could have been a river of blood in the streets. But that didn't happen because the Syrian people, first of all, they're tired of war, they're tired of poverty, and they want to rebuild their country. So, and they're smart people. I see an optimistic future.
I wish you to stay optimistic till the end, and I hope Syria will rise again.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.